I think the most interesting and surprising thing that probably happened to me is I became a grandfather for the first time, and that's not particularly surprising. I mean, I've got 9 children that go from 32 years old to 12, and they're starting to marry off, and so you pray that grandchildren will happen. But I knew I was going to love it, but I am still surprised by just how touched I am by little things in being a grandparent. And for me, it's a side story. But you asked the question, so I'll give the answer.
Fire away.
I'm adopted, so.
Oh, really?
And I'm not somebody who has any heartburn about that. I always felt I was very privileged, to be adopted. That my birth mother, gave me an incredible gift, and I was raised by good people, and I've had a wonderful life. I was very surprised when we had our first child, how emotional it was to see. It was the first person I had ever seen in my whole life that I was biologically connected with. And it hit me in a very unexpected way. And strangely, having a grandchild is like a continuation of that. And so that whole thing is a little bit of a surprise to me.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, well, let's dive in here. Hello, friends. Welcome to Smart Catholics Mastermind. Today, we are joined by James Hetzel. Welcome, James. Good to have you with us.
Glad to be with you.
This show is about meeting the minds and hearts of Catholic creators. They devote their time and talent to mastering their journey, their vocation, so that normal people like you and I can live fuller lives faster, maybe get a little smarter. So, James, you have this phenomenal project called Trinity Road. You're a marketing company, particularly in the Catholic space, and you've got a variety of sub-projects. Rather than have me kind of list them off, would you mind listing them off? More interesting to hear you describe them. And how did you get into all of this?
Oh, it's just, trying to only take a couple of minutes of our 15 minutes together. First, I apologize for the mess. We're moving offices around here, so I'm in office transit here. I'm a lawyer by training and trade, and I was practicing law with a large international law firm. And I didn't have a reversion, like I never left the church, but in my mid-20s, I really kind of came to understand my faith for the first time, and got interested in the Catholic marketplace. And the long story short, in 1997, started this business, and working with a gentleman, Father Joseph Facio from Ignatius Press, introduced me to a gentleman here in Charlotte, North Carolina, named Bob Gallagher. And Bob invested in the business, and we went into the business. And Trinity Road is what is developed. It's essentially a holding company we have a number of Catholic brands. So our Catholic company brand, CatholicCompany.com, we're the largest retailer of Catholic products in the world. We have a number of kind of what I would call niche boutiques that have grown out of that. So we've got GoodCatholic.com is a digital content brand. So like right now, we've got thousands of people who are involved in a Lenten study series with Father Jeff Kirby. Years ago, we started making our own rosaries. And so outside of the door that's right here, I've got a team of people who are making really beautiful rosaries, kind of on the higher end of things. So we launched rosary.com. The coffee has evolved from all of that. It's an interesting story, but I'm a guy who never had a sip of coffee until I was in my mid to late 40s, and I fell in love with it. My wife and I were actually in Rome at the world's oldest continuously operating coffee shop, the Café St. Eustatius in Rome, and it was a cold, rainy night. It's right off the Piazza Navona. And my wife was sitting there drinking an espresso, and it smelled so good that I ended up taking it from her. And I had my very first sip of coffee. And I went from abstaining from coffee to having a coffee problem kind of overnight. But that grew out of that, and we were selling a fair amount of coffee on the Catholic Company site, packaged in gift boxes. So what we sell on Catholic Company, a lot of it is very, very serious, theological books and devotional in nature. And some of it is lighter, it's what I would just call Catholic lifestyle, just sort of continual reminders. I'm looking at the desk here, no one's world is going to be changed by a coffee mug. But if the coffee mug has a prayer on it that's just a constant little reminder.
Mm-hmm.
I think it plays a role. These are just little lifestyle reminders that in my family, at least, we plant around our lives, in our cars, in our houses. And so Catholic Company has a fair amount of those I think I've heard people criticize us and say it's Catholic light, and it is. It's a Catholic lifestyle thing. But
I was just going to say, a reinforcing lifestyle that we surround ourselves with things that express what's going on the inside.
If your faith stops at the coffee mug saying, there's a problem. Okay, but if the coffee cup and the picture on the wall, if these are added elements and little enforcers, I think that they're very good things, and I'm pretty unapologetic about being involved in that space in the market.
Yeah. Well, as we were just chatting a couple of minutes ago, I saw connected with you all over the Catholic Coffee Instagram page, and like I was saying, whoever manages that page is a genius, because it's so fun to regularly see coffee being created and poured, and it's done with such a loving attention, to the details. I'm curious, where did that company go, or how did it come about after you said you got into actually drinking coffee, and then where's it going?
We were about 10 years ago, one of our designers designed a mug that said, "Simply thank God for coffee." And we've sold thousands and thousands of these, and it kind of stuck with me. So my family has a long history of vacationing up in Maine, and we have in Maine they call them camps. We have a camp up in Maine, and I got to know a guy who has a mid-sized coffee roasting business, and I started talking to him about buying coffee from him that we could package with mugs. With just different products, and ended up he was happy to work with us. But he steered us to a roaster in the Charlotte area, and we created this little brand called St. Joe Coffee. Coffee is called Joe, St. Joe. We have a little cartoon. We still sell a lot of it. It's on the Catholic Company site. We'll be moving to some better packaging in this year, but we just tested it. And in something like 3 weeks, we sold over 300 pounds of coffee packaged in these gift boxes.
Okay.
So I knew there was something there. That was probably 2017. And so I became fascinated with coffee roasting. I mean, one of the things you mentioned about the Instagram page that I think they do, we have a team of really great marketers here and really talented people here. We've got about 90 employees, and sometimes I have to pinch myself with the caliber of the people we have working here. But I'm a guy who doesn't know how to make anything. And, I have no tangible craft-oriented skills. And I became fascinated with the craft of coffee, because it's part chemistry. And then it's just part art. And so we bought a small coffee roasting machine, and we set about as a company learning how to roast coffee for our own use. We weren't even selling it first. At first we had to learn how to roast coffee good enough where we wanted to drink it around here. So this was a couple year, evolution. And then we started then roasting our own St. Joe coffee for Catholic Company. And I thought that there might be an opportunity for a bigger niche site. So 2 years ago, we did a test. We set up a little website called Santa's Coffee, not Catholic in any way, shape, or form. And that was really our first kind of coffee specific test. And we learned a lot from that. And then last summer we launched Catholic Coffee, and, we own the domain name Catholic Coffee. And, one of our employees just did a remarkable job on art that we developed in-house for each of the saints that are behind the roasts. And, we had very modest expectations, and it's so far, we had single months that we blew through our annual budget and revenue. There's people really loved it. And so, that's growing for us. We've now got 3 coffee roasting machines. We've got 3 or 4 commercial grinders. We've got commercial packaging machines. And then 2 weeks ago, a very expensive piece of equipment arrived here. We will, within a couple of weeks, we'll be offering K-Cups.
Offering, sorry, what?
K-Cups, the little Nespresso and Keurig cups.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So that's coming, and we're excited about that. And we'll have subscription offerings on the site soon. So it's really growing. We'll be testing fundraisers with Catholic churches and youth organizations and schools.
Mhm.
So we think that there's really something here behind this, and we really enjoy it.
I think so. I mean, that's so funny how, like you said, how quickly you blew through it all. And number one reason why I said I wanted to reach out to you is because there are so many members of the Smart Catholics community who just love coffee, and they're very vocal about it. They love posting it, and you know who you are if you're watching this. So, hey, if this does sound like you, please hit that like button so that more people can hear about what James is doing, hear about Catholic coffee.
And we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from them too.
Yeah.
We'd love to. We're as a company, we're a little bit introverted in nature, and so, it's important for us to interact with people who are, in this community, and so we'd love to hear from people, and we'd love to figure out ways to work with people.
That's awesome. Hey, well, so how can people then get in touch with you if they have questions or ideas, or
Send
they
us
want
a
to buy the
direct
coffee?
I'd get onto Instagram and send a direct message through Instagram, and they can address it to me, and they'll get to me, and I'd be happy to get back to you, or get one of our marketing team to get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And then what's the website again?
CatholicCoffee.com.
Perfect.
So we have I told you about that little mug. Thank God for coffee. So it's up on a test basis. So I'm hesitant to even say it, but it may be working.
Okay.
Thank God for coffee.com is launching. Little tongue in cheek. It's not an expressly religious site, but it leans into religion.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line for us, the more coffee that we can roast, the more our costs come down. And that's one of the beautiful things. Like in our Catholic company business, we've got 25,000 different products, and we're working with 290 vendors, and we import from all over the world, and there's a lot of moving parts. The beauty about coffee is a really good French roast, and it can be on the Santa's coffee site, or it can be on it can fill it. So coffee is an interesting business with scale, and we don't have a lot of scale. We're small, but we're learning, and we're really enjoying it.
That's fantastic. In just a second, it's almost time to wrap here. I want to ask you your 1 minute message to everyone from one Catholic to another. But very briefly, this show is brought to you by the free Catholic community on SmartCatholics.com. We are free of trolls and ads and toxicity, faithful to the Holy Father, Pope Francis, and the Church, committed to a culture of kindness and learning, and half of us for coffee. If that sounds like you, come and join us. Come and check us out on SmartCatholics.com. So, James, if you had 1 minute to share a message from one Catholic to another, what would you want to say?
Well, I'm gonna take something that you just said about the no toxicity. This is something that we got to keep our eyes focused on Christ, and I think we live in a time right now where the culture is really dark and politics are very dark. And sometimes we start taking these elements of the culture and injecting them into our faith. And at the end of the day, Christ gave us the Catholic faith, and we want to keep our eyes focused on the Eucharist and on the cross. And so increasingly, as I get older, I try to stay out of the politics in the church, and I just try to stick to the knitting. And I think it's of critical importance. I think that people who criticize from the left and people who criticize from the right, while maybe very well intentioned, I think that they're getting off their game. And I always think back to the screw tape letters. Satan uses good things and figures out how to use those against us. So he takes our love for the Lord, he takes our love for the church, but he can sometimes twist it into it can warp it. And I would just really encourage. I thought what you said about the no toxicity, and let's keep our eyes on the cross. That's what we need to do. The Pope has never called me for advice, so I just got to try to be as good an individual Catholic and be as good a husband and raise my children right and be as good a leader in this business as I can be. And that's what I'm going to be judged on.
I think that's fantastic. You ever sent him a complimentary bag of coffee?
I have not. My niece met him yesterday.
Really?
So yeah, she's a Navy women's soccer player, and they had an audience with him yesterday.
That is awesome.
But that's a good idea.
Well, everyone, head on over to CatholicCoffee.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Get yourself a bag of these, bag of the good stuff. Thanks again, James. It was great
Thank
to
you so
spend
much
some
for
time with
having
you.
me, Dominic. Thank you.